The story begins with the glittering facade of a life many would envy. The CEO, a man in his late 30s, appears to have it all: a thriving company, a luxurious lifestyle, and a pregnant wife whose beauty and elegance make her the centerpiece of his curated world. They live in a high-rise penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows, designer furniture, and a skyline view that seems to mirror their success. Every social event they attend is meticulously photographed, and their Instagram accounts showcase the perfect balance of romance, family, and ambition. To outsiders, their life seems flawless, an aspirational dream. But beneath the glittering surface, subtle cracks begin to show. The husband, once attentive and charming, has grown increasingly distant. Late-night phone calls, hushed conversations, and unexplained absences sow seeds of doubt and unease. He smiles at his wife, yet his eyes betray secrets he refuses to voice. She notices the small things: a missed dinner, the scent of someone else's perfume lingering faintly on his clothes, and the quiet tension that builds when they are alone. Her pregnancy, which should bring them closer, instead amplifies the emotional distance, leaving her feeling vulnerable and trapped in a marriage that is slowly unraveling. Meanwhile, the CEO juggles his public image with private indiscretions, creating a life of duality that teeters on the edge of disaster. The narrative establishes the contrast between appearance and reality, drawing the reader into a world where wealth and status cannot shield anyone from betrayal. The stage is set for the unfolding drama: a life of privilege shadowed by deception, a wife whose trust is on the brink of collapse, and a man whose actions will ignite a chain of events that neither of them could have anticipated. This opening section hooks the reader with tension, suspense, and a hint of the catastrophe to come, making them desperate to uncover what happens next. As the story unfolds, the carefully maintained image of marital bliss begins to crumble. The CEO, outwardly devoted and seemingly loving, has been hiding a secret that threatens to destroy everything. His mistress, a younger, seductive, and ambitious woman, enters the narrative like a shadow, gradually consuming his attention and loyalty. She is clever, charming, and manipulative, knowing exactly how to exploit the cracks in his marriage for her own gain. Their initial encounter, seemingly innocent, a business event or a chance meeting at an upscale lounge, quickly escalates into a dangerous obsession. The husband's obsession grows quietly but intensely. He begins sneaking out at night, inventing excuses, and sending coded messages to conceal their rendezvous. He purchases gifts, arranges secret dates, and crafts elaborate lies to maintain his double life. Each lie chips away at the foundation of trust with his wife, who, already vulnerable due to her pregnancy, senses the widening gap between them. Her intuition tells her something is wrong, but she cannot yet name it. The contrast between his charm toward the wife and his deceit toward the mistress paints a chilling picture of duplicity and moral decay. Psychologically, this affair represents more than infidelity. It becomes a manifestation of the CEO's greed, ego, and selfishness. He rationalizes his actions, convincing himself that his desires justify the harm he inflicts. Meanwhile, the mistress thrives on the attention, aware that she holds power over a man who has it all yet is willing to jeopardize his life and family for her. Their relationship, hidden from the world, sets the stage for inevitable tragedy. The section ends with a subtle but ominous hint that the affair will have catastrophic consequences. The reader is left with a mounting sense of dread. The husband's betrayal is no longer a distant threat, it is an active, destructive force poised to collide with the life he claims to cherish. Suspense builds, and the story teeters on the edge of disaster, drawing the reader deeper into the tense, dangerous world the characters inhabit. The tension escalates as the CEO's betrayal reaches its boiling point. One evening, under the pretense of a special night out, the husband insists on taking his pregnant wife on a limousine ride. The interior is plush, scented candles flicker softly, and the city lights stream through tinted windows, creating the illusion of romance. She, trusting and hopeful, believes this will be a moment of connection, a final attempt to salvage the fading intimacy in their relationship. Little does she know, this ride will become the harrowing pivot around which the entire story turns. As they cruise through the city, the husband's true intentions emerge in subtle yet terrifying ways. His demeanor shifts from charming to cold, and the conversation turns tense, almost rehearsed. A single wrong glance, a dismissive comment, or a hesitant gesture hints at the danger ahead. The wife, heavily pregnant and increasingly anxious, senses that something is amiss, but fear and disbelief prevent her from fully grasping the threat. The luxury surrounding her feels surreal, masking the peril in which she is trapped. Suddenly, in a horrifying twist, the limousine becomes a death trap. Flames erupt inside the vehicle, whether by accident or design, and panic sets in immediately. The smoke thickens, visibility disappears, and the intense heat makes every second feel like an eternity. The wife struggles to breathe, her hands pressed against the glass, her screams muffled by the growing roar of fire. Her trust, once so absolute, has turned into a weapon used against her, leaving her fighting not only for her life but for the life of the child she carries. This section heightens suspense, showing the stark contrast between luxury and vulnerability, trust and betrayal. The reader experiences the panic and desperation in real time, creating a visceral connection to the character's peril. The stage is set for the next twist, the entry of the single dad, whose courage and moral compass will confront the darkness and alter the trajectory of this catastrophic night. While the limousine burns, a seemingly ordinary man is about to become an extraordinary savior. This is the single dad, a man in his early 40s, carrying the weight of his own past hardships, yet defined by resilience, compassion, and unshakable moral clarity. A devoted father, he has juggled the responsibilities of raising his child alone while navigating a life that demanded sacrifices most would find unbearable. His life has been marked by struggle, yes, but also by courage, resourcefulness, and an unwavering belief in doing what is right, even when it comes at personal cost. On that fateful night, fate positions him exactly where he needs to be. Perhaps he is driving home after a late shift, walking past the street where the limousine has halted, or simply in the wrong place at the right time, though there are no accidents in moments like these. He notices the flames first, their orange glow reflected in nearby windows, accompanied by the screams of the trapped woman. Immediate instinct overtakes hesitation. He assesses the scene, notes the risks, and charges toward danger where most would flee. His actions are quick, precise, and fueled by a combination of adrenaline, empathy, and unshakable courage. The narrative contrasts his modest life with the CEO's opulent but morally bankrupt existence. The single dad's heroism is not born of wealth or status, it is rooted in empathy and integrity. He navigates the smoke, the heat, and the chaos with a clarity of purpose that belies the danger. Every decision is life or death: how to open the door, how to lift the heavily pregnant woman, how to keep both of them safe from collapsing debris or spreading fire. This section establishes him as a force of hope amid disaster, a moral counterpoint to the CEO's selfishness. The reader begins to feel a profound admiration for this man who, despite his ordinary circumstances, possesses extraordinary courage. The tension mounts, and the stakes climb higher as the rescue attempt unfolds, leaving the reader holding their breath, desperate to witness whether the single dad can succeed where the privileged and powerful have failed. The scene reaches its most intense point as the single dad enters the burning limousine. Smoke swirls around him, thick and suffocating, while flames lick at the leather seats and dashboard, spreading unpredictably with every gust of wind. Each second is agonizing. He knows the pregnant woman's time is running out, and the fire's fury grows by the moment. His heart pounds, but his focus never wavers. He sizes up the situation: doors warped by heat, windows opaque with smoke, and the growing chaos inside, but instinct and courage guide every move. Inside, the wife is struggling for breath, terrified and disoriented. Her trust in her husband has been irrevocably shattered, leaving her vulnerable and desperate. When she sees the single dad enter, a glimmer of hope cuts through the panic. He calls to her calmly yet urgently, urging her to follow his lead. He navigates the burning vehicle with precision, lifting her when she falters, shielding her from falling debris, and pushing through the heat that sears his skin. Each action demonstrates not just physical strength but remarkable presence of mind and empathy, as he reassures her that she and her unborn child will survive. The tension escalates further when structural damage threatens to trap them completely. The roof sags, flames flare dangerously close, and the sound of cracking metal fills the air. Yet the single dad refuses to surrender to fear. His experience as a father, his instinct to protect life above all else, drives him forward. He calculates each step, communicates calmly, and moves with unrelenting determination. Finally, amid smoke, fire, and chaos, he carries the wife to safety. The cool night air hits them like a baptism, washing away the terror while the limousine behind them burns entirely. Emergency sirens wail in the distance, but in this instant, the reader feels the triumph of human courage and moral integrity. This rescue solidifies the single dad's role as the story's moral and emotional anchor, emphasizing that heroism often comes from the most unexpected sources. As the flames consume the limousine, the CEO's cowardice becomes painfully clear. He is frozen in indecision, his carefully crafted facade of power and control collapsing under the pressure of real danger. The image he has projected for years, of dominance, authority, and unshakable confidence, crumbles into a pitiful display of fear and self-preservation. Instead of acting to save his pregnant wife, he hesitates, trapped by his own selfishness and the consequences of his betrayal. Every moment he fails to act magnifies the disaster he helped create, leaving the reader horrified by the stark contrast between his wealth and his moral bankruptcy. When the single dad emerges from the inferno with the wife in his arms, the CEO's guilt and panic intensify. He watches helplessly as the life he claimed to protect slips out of his grasp, realizing too late that wealth and status cannot redeem him. There is no applause, no rescue, no intervention, only the haunting image of a man who has failed the one person who trusted him most. The wife, heavily pregnant and shaken, is now in the hands of someone whose courage surpasses his in every conceivable way. Her eyes, once full of love, now reflect betrayal, fear, and disbelief, leaving the CEO confronted with a truth he cannot deny. His choices have consequences far greater than he ever imagined. In the aftermath, he flees the scene, leaving a trail of moral devastation behind. The story emphasizes the stark juxtaposition between action and inaction, courage and cowardice, integrity and selfishness. His flight is not just physical but symbolic of his character, someone who hides from responsibility and refuses to face the consequences of his deeds. Meanwhile, the single dad, having risked everything, becomes a beacon of humanity and heroism, demonstrating that true strength lies not in power or money but in selfless action and moral clarity. This section deepens the reader's emotional investment, highlighting the CEO's failure as both a narrative turning point and a moral lesson. It leaves the audience questioning how power can corrupt and how true courage often comes from unexpected places. In the days following the harrowing rescue, the story shifts to the aftermath, the physical, emotional, and psychological recovery of the pregnant wife. She is safe, but trauma leaves deep scars, both visible and invisible. Hospital walls replace the luxury of the limousine, and the constant hum of medical equipment becomes a reminder of how close she came to death. Every doctor's check, every reassuring word, carries weight far beyond the physical. Her mind struggles to process betrayal, fear, and survival. She reflects on the man she once trusted, the husband whose choices endangered her life, and the stark contrast with the single dad who risked everything for her safety. The single dad remains a constant presence, not as a savior in the traditional sense, but as a steady anchor amid chaos. He visits her in the hospital, offering quiet support, practical help, and genuine empathy. Through his actions, she begins to rediscover the fragile threads of trust in humanity, recognizing that not all men are defined by selfishness or cowardice. His courage and integrity provide a stark mirror against the CEO's failings, highlighting the moral disparities that define the story. This period also allows for introspection. The wife considers her unborn child and the life that must continue despite the trauma. She contemplates forgiveness, not necessarily for the CEO, but for herself, to reclaim control over her own choices and emotions. Memories of the limousine, the fire, and the heroism of the single dad replay vividly, intertwining pain and hope, fear and gratitude. The narrative explores the psychological complexity of trauma recovery, portraying her resilience, vulnerability, and emerging strength. Meanwhile, the single dad reflects on his own life, considering how a single act of courage can ripple outward, reshaping destinies. His actions are heroic yet grounded, reminding readers that true heroism often comes from ordinary people who rise to extraordinary circumstances. This section deepens emotional resonance, preparing the reader for the next stage of the story. Confronting the CEO, understanding consequences, and exploring the moral reckoning that follows such a night of fire, betrayal, and salvation. As the wife recovers, the narrative turns toward confrontation, a pivotal moment where accountability collides with deception. The CEO, who fled in cowardice the night of the fire, cannot escape the consequences of his actions forever. The wife, now stronger, clearer in her resolve, decides to face him. This confrontation is not driven by vengeance alone but by a need to assert the truth, to make him witness the magnitude of his betrayal and the lives he endangered. Every word, every gesture, is charged with the weight of trauma and survival, making the encounter electric with tension. When they meet, the CEO is confronted not by legal authority initially, but by the moral judgment of someone he once held dear. His bravado falters as the wife recounts the harrowing details of the limousine fire, emphasizing how close she came to death and how utterly he failed her. She does not scream or cry. Instead, her voice is calm, controlled, and piercing in its clarity. Each sentence strips him of the illusions of power he had clung to, exposing the selfishness, cowardice, and deceit that defined his actions. The single dad's role is underscored in this confrontation. He stands not to overshadow her voice but as a living testament to courage, integrity, and moral action. The CEO sees firsthand the stark contrast between the man who risked everything for life and the one who risked nothing for love. The wife's statements carry an unspoken truth. Heroism is defined not by status or wealth, but by choices made when lives hang in the balance. The encounter leaves the CEO shaken, haunted by guilt, shame, and the recognition that survival and redemption are not guaranteed by money or position. Meanwhile, the wife experiences a sense of empowerment. Having confronted fear, betrayal, and injustice, she asserts her agency over her life and the future of her child. This section solidifies the moral core of the story, illustrating that courage, accountability, and selflessness ultimately prevail over deceit, selfishness, and cowardice. With the fire behind them, both literally and metaphorically, the wife begins to rebuild her life. The trauma she endured has left scars, yet it also ignites a determination to reclaim control and redefine her future. No longer confined by fear or the shadow of betrayal, she focuses on her pregnancy, preparing for motherhood with a new perspective rooted in resilience and self-respect. Every small step, appointments, nursery preparations, and quiet moments of reflection, represents a reclamation of power and autonomy, demonstrating that survival is not merely physical but also emotional and psychological. The single dad remains a quiet yet vital presence in her life. Their bond, forged in the crucible of crisis, grows deeper and more meaningful with each passing day. While there is no immediate romantic entanglement, mutual respect, trust, and a shared understanding of courage create a profound connection. The narrative emphasizes that heroism is often relational. It's about the lives touched, the support given, and the choices made in the face of danger. He helps her navigate not only practical matters but also the lingering emotional tremors of trauma, acting as a steady guide without overshadowing her journey toward independence. Meanwhile, the CEO is left to confront the full consequences of his selfish actions. Legal proceedings, social exposure, and personal shame form a background that underscores the narrative's moral structure. The stark contrast between his cowardice and the single dad's bravery reinforces the story's central theme. Integrity and moral courage are far more impactful than wealth, power, or status. In this section, the story emphasizes growth, healing, and the possibility of renewal. The wife begins to envision a life where her child is raised in safety and love, where past horrors do not dictate the future, and where resilience and moral clarity guide her choices. The single dad's heroism remains a testament to human compassion, reinforcing the narrative's message that true courage comes from selflessness, empathy, and decisive action. Together, they symbolize hope, renewal, and the power of moral integrity to triumph over betrayal and danger. As the story draws to a close, the wife steps fully into a new chapter of her life, leaving behind fear, betrayal, and trauma. She gives birth to a healthy child, surrounded by love and security, a symbol of hope and renewal after the harrowing events that once threatened to destroy her. The birth is not only a physical triumph but a profound emotional milestone, proof that life, courage, and resilience can prevail even in the face of unimaginable adversity. Every tiny detail, from the baby's first cries to the quiet moments of maternal bonding, underscores the triumph of survival, love, and determination. The single dad remains by her side, his presence a steady, silent testament to bravery and selflessness. Their relationship evolves naturally, grounded in mutual respect and deep trust rather than superficial attraction. The story emphasizes that heroism often leaves lasting impact not through dramatic gestures alone, but through enduring support, empathy, and moral consistency. His courage in the limousine did more than save her life. It reshaped her understanding of humanity, trust, and what it means to rely on others in moments of crisis. The CEO, by contrast, is left isolated, a stark warning against selfishness and moral failure. The consequences of his actions, legal scrutiny, personal shame, and the severed ties with the woman he endangered, serve as a counterpoint to the narrative's celebration of integrity and heroism. Through his downfall, the story reinforces the moral lesson. Power and wealth mean little without character, and cowardice in moments of consequence leaves lasting scars. This final section also celebrates resilience, renewal, and the power of human connection. The wife, now a mother, looks forward to a future defined not by betrayal but by hope, courage, and the lessons learned through fire and survival. The single dad's quiet heroism reminds readers that ordinary people can rise to extraordinary challenges, and that acts of courage ripple outward, transforming lives in ways both immediate and lasting. The story closes on a note of triumph, moral clarity, and the enduring strength of the human spirit, leaving readers inspired by survival, redemption, and the transformative power of courage.